What's up, everybody? My name is Kuri and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be taking a look at the Go-Go Power Rangers Kuri Dino Megazord release made by FlameToys, officially licensed by Hasbro. We'll be taking a look at each individual Zord and comparing them to prior Dino Megazord releases, as well as taking a closer look at something that I was really looking forward to that actually came to fruition, being the articulation and insane amount of detail. With that out of the way, let's turn the camera around and take a closer look at each Zord and what they have to offer in comparison to some of our prior releases of the Dino Megazord, aka Daijujin. Starting with the most complicated of the set, which is the Mastodon Dinozord. This has a lot of really cool things to it, but also suffers in its proportions due to how the overall proportions of the final Megazord mode are. He is very, very cool though, and he sports some pretty decent articulation for the Mammoth or Mastodon. You have some hinges down here that go forward and back. You also have them for here as well, and you can kind of extend some of it more because of the transformation, so you can bring this down more, and you can kind of pop that out if you need extra range. The foot also slides forward, again for transformation, but it is there. So he does have some articulation in his legs. As far as the head goes, there's not much to say besides his trunk, which has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hinges. So you can get some decent poses out of his trunk, and they all move rather smoothly. You can extend these portions on his head to give it a little bit more of a complete or wider visor vibe. You can also fold the head down due to the transformation, or at least the face in a little bit. And because of how he connects as a shield, he has a pseudo mouth down here as well. And then the tail is on this hinge. It can rotate and it bends at an angle there. Now let's take a look at a couple of comparisons. So let's get him set up here. We will bring in the original Mastodon and the Soul of Chogokin Mastodon, so you can see the size there. They're about the same head length. These two are both longer, and you can kind of see the width of everybody. Get those two out of the way, and now we will get him prepped as the arms. So what you're just going to do is pop this out. We're going to mess around with the shield, but most of the time I just get it prepped, and I rarely use it because sometimes it's a little bit annoying getting it in the hand. It's doable, but it's a little bit of a challenge. There's also little tabs and such that can also be kind of frustrating. So get something small that's not too sharp to poke out any tab that you need, because there's lots of different little additional tabs. I'm just going to pop this one out just in case. I don't think I need it, but there is a tab here, and this slots onto his wrist and fold his face in, and now you have him, them, he into his shield mode. Coming here, just fold these all the way forward, and then you're going to want to come here, kind of rotate them out, and you're going to want to push in on one of these and it will free up both of them, but sometimes they get stuck based on how they connect. And shift those around and pull the arm out a little bit on each side. And then for this, to make it easier for yourself, pop this out and fold this down. It will bend in down here, and that will allow you, sometimes it gets stuck. Oh yeah, pull the hands out so it can fully collapse in there. And it's easier off camera than right now. Fold this, oh, that's because I'm not doing it all the way. And you want to fold this down and through and connect the arm. Come here, extend this out. I'll do it on both sides so I don't forget. Extend this out, pull this out, make sure you have the wrist popped out, rotate, rotate, bring this in, and then there's this little bar right here that you'll slide this onto, which can be a little bit of a pain. as you can see right here. Sometimes I just force it like I did there, and you'll peg this into a little tab like so. Is it stuck? Okay, there we go. Do the same thing on this side. I don't know what I did on this side. What's going on? Just gotta force it, huh? There we go. There it is. And tab that in. All right. Bring this up, rotate it around, and set it like this. You're gonna want to collapse the shoulders in on these little rails right here. They're kind of sketchy, to be honest with you, especially to get them like locked in the other way. And you'll come to the hand, and each finger is articulated, but we'll take a look at that more when he's combined. But get those straightened out. Rotate that around. And then there's a couple options you can do with the shoulders. You can just bring them up as is, and you can have like a closer to the body arm position, but I like to extend them out, and this is where these do come in handy sometimes. If it gets stuck, you'll pop open these. If you have fingernails, it's not that bad, but I don't. And then you'll pull on the shoulder, and we will bring that up, and you can leave the arm orientation like this, but I tend to rotate everything around so we have access to the arm joints when he is combined. And there you have his arms. As you can see, this is the most complex transformation of this set. So with that out of the way, let's move on to the next one. The Zord that I experienced, probably one of the biggest glow-ups in this set, is the Pterodactyl, at least in my opinion. This thing is absolutely incredible. I really love the detail, the color, the shades. It all works really nicely because you have just a couple of different shades, but they blend really nicely together, especially in light. The wings are a different color than the chest. The chest is a different color than this little pink strip in the sword. And the head is also slightly a different color, but they all flow really nicely. It's very strange, but really satisfying. Of course, the sword is incorporated into this mode, which I think is a really good idea. You do have a little bit of articulation in this form. The wings have a few points of articulation in them. And you also have this hinge here, and it can flap forward and back. There is, I guess, waist articulation. You can also fold these forward to act as like pseudo feet, and you can fold this back to be the tail. The head can swivel up and down. It can also rotate, and you can mess with the head fin all you want. So it's very articulated in comparison to some of its counterparts, actually all of its counterparts, if I'm being honest. Let's try to get it in a pseudo standing pose so I can show you what it looks like in comparison to previous releases, starting with the Pterodactyl Dinozord from the original set. This one has die-cast replacements from Starlight Studios, but there's your original, and of course her wingspan is significantly bigger, but there's that. These are just falling off. And then you have the Soul of Chogokin, which again is a similar design as the previous, just a little bit smaller. But as you can see, the wingspan, even closed, is significantly larger than the Soul of Chogokin. And this looks more like a Zord to me than this. I mean, just because it's so simple, at least standing, but flying is definitely a little bit better. But let's transform you, or at least prep you. There's a couple of things that you can do to make your life a little bit easier, but I'm not going to tell you those things. I'm just kidding. You just slowly remove this tab and this tab because they're a little bit thinner, and this is die cast. And then coming to here, this just Well, normally it just falls off, but it's actually tabbed in pretty good right now. And that tabs in right there via this clip. And then coming here, I put my finger here under the neck and right here on the die cast because it's just easier to pop up, and it's sketchy is all I'll get out, honestly, because it tabs in really securely right here and right here. And I'm always scared I'm going to break it, but this is die cast, so it does just pop off without any scary issues. I'm going to pseudo prep the wings, I guess, like so. Just kind of get them back and out of the way. And those are pseudo ready to go, and we'll slide those off to the side. Coming to the sword, depending on which hand you're going to hold it in, which I think we're going to do this side, there's those tabs. This also rotates, which is helpful. And then you can either leave it down like this, you can spin it around, you can do this, you can do this, just depending on how you want it to be displayed. But it definitely looks really, really good. A very solid sword. We'll do a comparison to the other swords in Megazord mode, but definitely really cool. To prep this, it's pretty simple because this is going to go down like this, so you want to fold these up, and then this is just ready to go. There's nothing you really need to do. And now we'll move on to the next one. Next, we have the Triceratops, which also has a lot of nice added detail and does have some changes. As you can see, he has legs. And there is a spot filler back here, which are the cannons instead of being the Pterodactyl's feet. Even though it's just not the thing, they just kind of come out of nowhere in the show. So it's nice that they were able to properly have all the pieces be stored away in their dino modes, not leaving anything behind. And this guy looks really cool. He has added articulation. He can swivel forward and backwards, and there is a hinge here, and there's toe articulation forward and back. Same back here, there's a hinge. There's also another hinge which can go forward and back, and you have toe articulation. You do have a little bit of movement due to how he transforms in the front, so there's a little bit of wiggle room there. More back here, but it's more for the combination for the leg. You can, well, before I do that, there is neck articulation, and there's a swivel right here, which is pretty nice, and it's very useful for robot / Megazord mode. And you can, of course, bring this up. There is this little tab down here that is nice for Megazord mode, and it locks, but it doesn't lock in super secure, as you can see, so do be wary of that. Mouth opens and closes. This is stuck on mine, but that's okay. If you want to transform him into a more reminiscent version, you just fold the legs up like so, if I can get it to stay, and rotate them around, and then you will have him like he is in Power Rangers, or at least in the show. Oh, wrong way. They can be a little bit annoying to rotate, but this is the mode that you'll want them in for the combination, so we're already kind of getting him into that. This likes to get stuck, but there we go. So there you have him as his tank, and we'll compare him with others in his tank formation. It makes him super low to the ground. Here is my original. He is missing the horns, and I'm going to get replacements, don't worry. And here is the Solo Chogokin, which, in my opinion, probably got the best treatment out of the three, just in general. Because this is a really solid, besides its flaws, is really solid, has the little chain gimmick for the horns, but this is very, very nice and very solid, and has more articulation and more creativity. This one suffers heavily in comparison, but it's nice to kind of see some difference and similarities. This is a very old childhood set, as you can make out by the legs. And getting him into leg mode is very simple. You're going to come here and unpeg these come here and peg these in. There's these little tabs that will slot into the side. This is also a mixture of die cast and plastic. Sometimes getting these tabs lined up can be a pain, but extend this, bring this forward. You're going to want to get that tab to stay down, which sometimes is easier said than done. Come on. There we go. And that will click into place, and now the foot won't just randomly collapse on you. Bring this down and fold this in. Come here, and you're going to fold this out before I forget. There's this little heel piece back here, and that will fold out to be his heel. Then you'll come here, pop this open, and unclip these. And there, you'll see these two tabs and a little section down here, which is where the leg will combine into. And there you have a foot. Next, taking a look at the Sabertooth Tiger, who also got a upgrade or redesign, depending on how you look at it. I really enjoy this take on the Sabertooth Tiger, especially the colors, the larger head, and some added articulation. It definitely adds something special to this overall design, which is kind of simple on the Dino Megazord. They definitely added a lot more detail, texture detail, and printed detail on this individual Zord. The articulation on this is also pretty good. The mouth can sometimes be a pain to open, but if you have nails, there's no real issue. The head can look up and down on this hinge and side to side. If you extend this out, you can also get even more out of the neck. And you also get access to this slider, which is mainly for the transformation, but it is there if you so choose to use it. Coming to the arms, they have these swivels, so you can kind of drop them down low and bring them up high as well. So there's a couple of positions that you can mess with there. Double jointed elbow, and you come to the hinge, and they have a slight pivot at the wrist. Torso articulation, slight swivel. This one gets hindered by these two angles on the side. Full rotation on the leg. Kind of got a double joint going there. It can also go the other way, and you can fold the ankle down with that hinge. And to make it look a little bit more like its original counterpart, you can, well, the tail also swivels. You can come back here where the other cannon is stored and flip out the wheels out of the back of the legs. This is, of course, also used for the transformation for tank and Megazord mode, but it is cool that it is an option. Getting you kind of stood up so we can compare you to the original. And as you can see, there's that. This is the Power Rangers version, not the Daijujin. And then here is the Solo Chogokin, which is probably the most show accurate Sabertooth Tiger for that. There also is a giant model kit of it, but here you can see some scale differences. They actually all look really good together, like a pride of tigers. Pride of Sabertooth Tigers. Transforming, this is just as you would think, honestly. There's a couple of things that change. As you saw, you extend the neck, and you can bring this forward, but what it really wants you to do is slide this and then flip this so you have that heel. Like I said, you should move these in one piece and be careful. I don't know if they move independent, but at least for mine, they don't seem to want to. For these legs, you can do a couple of things with them. I tend to bring them up forward like this and kind of extend them down on that little hinge, get them kind of lined up and drop them down. Coming to here, this sometimes collapses in a little bit too far, so I get something to pull it out, and you'll fold that right in and close that up. Coming back here, you'll do a similar thing with the legs. Just gonna kind of angle everything the way you want to. There we go. and that will collapse. Same thing over here, and that will collapse. Come back here, open up this, open up this flap, and untab the cannon, and then just kind of rotate, where is it? Just kind of rotate these here for now. And fold up the feet, I forgot to do that. Because these tabs will tab into these holes, and there you have another portion of the Megazord ready to be combined. So let's finish this up. I saved the best for last because this Tyrannosaurus is an awesome take on an already awesome design for a standalone Zord. This thing is absolutely everything that I was hoping it would be. There's only one downside that I would say to it, and it's the tail not being able to bend up onto its back to kind of simulate the original's vibe, meaning that you don't really have anywhere to put this. It's just here. It doesn't come off unless you probably unscrew it. But as far as displaying goes, this is probably the only major issue that you could experience on yourself. But luckily, since I've moved some things around, I don't really have that issue. But it's pretty amazing what people can do when they set their minds to it, because the engineering on this guy is absolutely fabulous. So enough ranting and raving about how beautiful this thing is. The articulation is pretty fire. Starting with the tail, you get this hinge right here that goes back and forth. You can also bring it down this far and up this far, and this also kind of clicks in and out. You get slight bends, so you can curve it like that, but they extend all the way to the tip of the tail. These two just extend. They don't have a joint, but you can see there's slits, so you can get more bend. Not much more, but it definitely adds something, and it looks really, really cool. And I really appreciate this little function. I'm going to collapse it for now. Bring it back out for Megazord mode. Coming to his head, there's nothing really in the head. There's just like this slight transformation joint, which I don't suggest utilizing, but his face can collapse. But this extension is really cool. Mouth opens and closes, and there's those cannons in there. His arm articulation is pretty solid as well. You can get it to go forward and back. There's a little bit of in and out. There's a bicep swivel, which is pretty fire. You get a, I guess, almost full complete bend, so it's a little bit, it's more than 90, so it's almost a full double joint. You get wrist rotation, and the top claws open and close. Coming to his midsection, these are on ball joints, so those can move around. You do have a crunch, which is really nice, and there is rotation, but you want to extend it. And since we're going to transform him soon anyway, that will extend up. You'll hear a click, and that will give you easier access to this very stiff waist joint that's also die cast or metal. So you get a hinge there, and it gives you a tiny bit of range more forward. And there is a little bit of mechanical movement right here. Like, so you see that, and when you close it, these pads kind of move around. So that's pretty cool. Coming to his legs, they're super ratcheted. And they go forward and back. That's just his butt flap that just pegs in right here. I forgot to move it out of the way, because they do indeed move pretty much all the way out of the way. You get a decent leg forward and back. You got a thigh swivel. You got a nice double jointed knee, which is pretty decent just for it in general. You also have a hinge down here for down, forward and back, and full 360, which is crazy. Like, the ankle movement on this guy is phenomenal. You have a black back claw that articulates, and the front goes in and out as well. So this guy's really articulated and looks really, really good. And I think this is one of my absolute favorites in this set, and I'd say it would go Sabertooth, then Pterodactyl, then Triceratops, then Mastodon. Just because the Mastodon suffered so heavily, but it's still good. But in order of how I like it, I think that's what I would say. Comparing him to the original and the Soul of Chogokin. Soul of Chogokin, in my opinion, nailed the Tyrannosaurus as well. It looks really good in comparison to the original one, but we'll see whenever we get them fully combined what my final thoughts are. But this guy is definitely a star. It's absolutely beautiful. And with that, let's get ready to transform him. And it's pretty simple, honestly. It's very simple, actually. And then you'll collapse the lower ankles and fold these in. You might have to adjust them a little bit whenever you're pushing the leg in, but kind of get it at a slight angle. Do the same thing on this side. Straighten everything out. Oops. Pop a ball joint. And bring this tail up. Come down here, and then you'll just shift the feet back up and close them up. Then you will come to the head. Take these arms, collapse them up, and rotate them like this. And you'll want them down at his waist because the arms will peg in right there. Same thing on the other side. Then come to the chest. You'll open it like you would on any Dino Megazord, but this one pops all the way down, and there's this little tiny flap in here that you'll pull up. Coming to the face, pull it away from the body, close his mouth, compact his face so he looks hilarious. Or kind of like on those VHS tapes, the first release of the Power Rangers, where they had like the pre-morph sequence kind of thing from human to animal. And then you'll push this up from below and kind of get this completely out of the way so you can properly thread the Dino Megazord in. Then bring the head down and miss the tab. There's this tiny tab and there's a little slot, and it will tab in just like that. So now let's bring everybody together and do the combination. And here we have the fully combined Kuri Dino Megazord in all of its glory. I love the muted colors of this design, as well as all the sharp edges and exaggerated details. It's also much more slender, which somehow makes it look even better. It looks very agile and menacing, and it looks like a more primal version of what we know to be Daijujin or the Dino Megazord. And after all these years, it's really nice to finally have this in hand, as well as see something like this come to life in physical form for me and you to take a look at and just sit in awe on how beautiful this set really is. Removing these just to make the articulation section a little bit easier. Here's the sword again, and you just use these tabs into the hand. And the shield, something that I didn't really notice, is that it has a couple of functionalities that were just stuck on mine. Once you have him holding the shield, getting his hand away from the shield can sometimes be a pain because of how it moves around. But I do want to point out real quick that this actually rotates. This whole thing can rotate, so it makes it a little bit easier to have it gripped in his hand properly. And then this little tab will hook in right here, and it does definitely help to know that this shifts around so you can get it at a better angle for whenever he's holding it. Moving that out of the way, and we're going to take off the wings just for space sake for the articulation. We'll put them back on whenever we do a comparison. And just stock transformation articulation, we'll kind of make fists over here so it's not so obvious that his arms are awesome. We'll start with the head. The head is on a really nice expressive ball joint. So you can get side to side, forward and back, and almost a full 360, but I don't normally do it due to the collar and some of the helmet getting in the way. If you want to, you can fold this back, but I do like it fold forward. Coming to his arms, you get these designated butterflies for this mode, which is really nice. Full ratchet in the arm. Of course, the shoulder pads can kind of move up and down. You have a nice bicep swivel and a single joint in this formation. If you want more, you just rotate this, rotate the hand, and you get all the range you need in the elbow. Coming to the hand, each finger has some individual joints. It's on a ball, so it can kind of hinge up and down, side to side. And each finger has a decent amount of articulation. The thumb is on a ball joint and a hinge, and it has 2 joints coming to each finger. They are also on little hinge joints that are on little, I believe, little balls or a little swivel section from side to side, and each finger has 1, 2, 3 joints. So you, of course, can do the middle finger as well as other poses without having to have replacement hands. And if you need a little bit extra, you can pull the wrist out and use that hinge for sword posing. It is an option. It's there. Sometimes it's a little bit of a pain to tab it back in, but it's definitely something you can do. And holding the shield and the sword isn't really a problem for these fingers because they're not super loose. And of course you can do a T-pose, which is cool in itself. Coming to the torso, you have the same articulation as the Tyrannosaurus. So you have that ab crunch, and you also have that rotation, which sometimes in this mode I don't know where to grab to rotate, so I grabbed the top and the waist and it still didn't work. So we'll just grab the waist so you get that rotation. These still move. Get these out of the way. It has the same range as the Tyrannosaurus does. Oh, let's make sure to flip these out of the way so I don't pop a ball joint. But you still can access the articulation, so you still get that steep knee, which looks really nice. You still have the thigh swivel, and then here at each leg you also have that, I'm going to use this side, the swivel for, I guess, your ankle. And then there's also a tilt for the ankles due to how these transform on both sides. So it's pretty cool. You also get a little bit of toe articulation due to the due to the legs transforming. I like that this pops off, but it does pop off a little bit easy. But for posing and stuff, it's really not that big of a deal. And then lastly, rotate these back into this kind of regular formation. The cannons on the back also can shift forward, and because of the combination into tank mode. They do extend, and you can also wield it as a weapon by folding this down and giving a handle. So he can hold it in Megazord mode as well. It's mainly for tank mode, but it is there if you so choose to use it. So now I'm just going to pop the wings back on so we can do the size comparison with the original and solo Chogokin. One thing I will say is the wings don't peg on the most secure, and I might thicken those tabs just a little bit. And I think the only other thing I would be weary of is the Mastodon back legs that hold the cannons. Mine weren't glued into place, they were just pegged in, so they did fall off a couple of times, but I easily remedied that with glue and haven't had a problem since. I don't know if it was on purpose or not, but it is something that happened a bunch. Let's get these wings a little bit folded this way, and I forgot about your tail. Gonna collapse it a little bit and give myself a little bit more space. And, all right, fold it down because that actually helps. That helped a lot. Okay, bringing in the original. I should actually slide this over here. Here's the original, which is taller than him. A head taller, limited articulation, and here's his sword. So there's him. He's also very solid for a toy from the 90s. Some of the stuff from the 90s is definitely wonderful, so I know why people are very hard-pressed about not liking anything other than it. And then here's the solo Chogokin, which is heavy from the die cast. And it's also, well, I don't really know if it's taller. No, you're slightly taller. But here are these two together. Slide him out of the way. And there you have the Kuri Dino Megazord in all of its glory with some comparisons. And this is definitely a set that I haven't put away ever since I have gotten it, and I've transformed him multiple times back and forth into Zord and Megazord mode. The tank mode is something that I personally have always just had a hard time like seeing as a tank, you know what I mean? It's definitely really cool. This is very similar in that design. Do I have the instructions near me? Yes, I will show you the tank mode really quickly before we wrap this up. And the tank mode is the last step in the manual, so you'll go all the way through Dino mode, or Dino Megazord mode, and then you'll kind of shift everything around, and there is the tank mode. And what's also really nice is the instructions are pretty good. The English translation isn't the best, but just it being in color is really, really nice. So there's all of that. Tells you about all the tabs and different things and things not to touch. And this is reminiscent of the packaging that he comes in, front and back. And with that, we have successfully reviewed the Kuri Dino Megazord. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more. And check the link in my bio for all the cool things that I do and will be doing in the future. Thank you so much again, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Goodbye.